Hey everyone, and welcome to Isms by Josie. Today we're going to be doing another itty bitty knit kit that I got from Five Below. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in. And for my new viewers, please consider subscribing, share, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and click on that notification bell for future videos. So today, you guys, we have another viewer request. We're going to be doing Sweet Stocking from the itty bitty knit kits that are sold at Five Below. Let's take a look at what's in this kit here. We have stuffing, knitting needles, sewing needle, a couple of spools of yarn, and a felt heart. Okay, so these videos are just going to be a supplement to the kit. If you really want to make these, I highly recommend that you get the kit. I don't show any of the instructions or go into any details with the instructions. What I do is pretty much just teach you the stitches that make up this kit, which is, there's only one stitch, and then I do explain the instructions if there's something new, and then of course we just sew this all together and hope for the best. Oops, the camera. So just looking at the contents inside, we've got our spools of yarn here. We have red, white, and mint. At least this was mint in the other kit. Then we have the pouches, very thin pouch. We've got the knitting needles. We have the stuffing, and this is actually a felt sticker. What else is in here? Oh, and the sewing needle. So I'm just going to put the stuffing back in here. You don't want to get it dirty. And then you also want to put the felt sticker there as well. And then I'm going to put the sewing needle so that I don't lose it, because we're going to use it for later. And then I'm going to put this inside, back inside the box. Okay. So here are the instructions. They have illustrations as well as text. I think they even have for lefties and righties, so that's cool. And it also comes with a ruler, so you don't have to go get one yourself. I do this the way that I would do it, so if you really want to follow the instructions, go ahead and do that, but I'm going to do it the best way I know how. So you know, you don't have to do it my way. Now, to speed up or slow down the video, go ahead and click on the gear button in the corner. There's playback options to go fast or slow. If you don't need to hear me speak, you can lower the volume on your device and click on the CC closed caption button. So let's get straight into this. We are doing a stocking, which has a lot of stripes. So luckily, and you know how much I don't necessarily like this, because your rectangles always has a measurement that they want you to build it to, and they tell you in inches how long your rectangle should be, so that when you sew your pieces together, and this is any itty bitty knit kit, when you sew your pieces together proportionally, they'll be correct to the instructions. As you saw in the last video, I did mention that I did go by the number of rows they were asking for, and it didn't reach that measurement. So this part here might be a complete waste of time. I'm going to be so upset if it does, but in your instructions it says what rows, number of rows you're going to need. So let's run with that, and if it doesn't measure the amount, I'm going to have to edit this video and redo it and add more rows, because that's what I did with the last one. I just stopped the filming, added more rows, and then came back in and told you how many rows I added. So let's get into this. We're going to start with the green. And you can go up or down on this rectangle. It seems like it's the same. It's going to end with green, and the next color ending with green is red. And then after that is white, so you can start either way. Just count the number of rows. Or, actually, you know what? I'm going to follow the number of rows, and if it's not measuring the amount that it needs to be, I'm just going to add more stripes. We'll do it that way so that I don't make my life entirely miserable. Alright, so off camera, I'm going to measure the tail end So do that as well. You can use the ruler inside that booklet to measure off this tail. Okay, and then once you have that measured out, I'm going to show you how to do the next steps. So keep pinched that tail. I'm just going to switch my hands here. I'm doing this for righty. And there's not enough green, so oof, I hope I make it with the green. But you want to keep all your feeder yarn up, right? And then you want to keep your tail end here down and out of the way. You don't want to use your tail end at all for this part. So pinch this very tightly. Then we're going to take our middle and ring finger and you're going to hold the yarn apart like this. Then we're going to take 2 fingers and you're going to lift up this yarn and we're going to turn it down. And then with your middle and index finger, you're going to grab the feeder yarn and pull it through the loop. So now we have this large loop that we're working with. What we want to do is pull this top part, not the part that's attached to the feeder yarn, but this top part here. I'm going to pull the top part out while pushing the knot towards my thumb. So just keep pulling and pushing that knot until it gets really tight or until it butts up against your thumb. And then once you get to that point, you can take your thumb and index finger and just pull the tail just to make that knot a little more snug. You don't have to pull it too hard, just a little bit enough to tighten up this knot. Then I'm going to hold the knot right here. Now we have this huge loop. We're going to make it more manageable by pulling on the feeder yarn. So slowly pull on your feeder yarn until that loop can fit 2 knitting needles, right? And then you're just going to stick your knitting needles in here. All right, so from here you can tighten up that loop again, pull at the feeder yarn. So you can tighten that around the 2 needles, and we're going to move on to casting on stitches. So to do that, gather up some feeder yarn here. To do these cast-ons, we're going to do somewhat of a knit stitch, and I'll show you how to do that. What you do is get into your knit stitch position, and that is Xing your needles like this. You want your right needle in the back, your left needle on top, and you want your feeder yarn towards the back. Okay, so then what we're going to do is wrap the feeder yarn around the right needle. So you want to always keep your needles touching at all times. And we're going to wrap this from back to forward and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. And it's going to stay inside this little crevice here with your needles constantly touching so you don't lose that yarn. But now what we're going to do is take our left needle and we're going to slide it down the right over the tip and down the back. And this is going to force the feeder yarn through the loop. So let's do that now. Down the right needle, over the tip, down its back, and see it kind of forced the yarn through this loop. It created a new stitch. So when casting on stitches, you want to take all the stitches off the right needle and move it over to the left needle. To do that, you're going to take your left needle and stick it through that new stitch. We're going to pick it up and lift it off the right needle. So now we have 2 stitches on our left. So let's do this again. Stick your needle into the new stitch here. We're going to get into our knit stitch position, which means our right needle's in the back, our left needle's on top, feeder yarn is in the back. We're going to yarn over with the feeder yarn back to forward, keeping in contact with our needles. So wrap it around back to front and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. And you want it stuck into that crevice there. Then we're going to slide the left needle down the right over the point and down its back. forcing that feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch. And again, we're transferring over any new stitches over to the left stitch. So take the left needle, pick up this new stitch here, and lift it off the right needle. So now we have 3 stitches. Let's do this one more time. Stick your needle into the latest stitch here, get into your knit stitch position, which is right needle at the bottom, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. So yarn over from back to forward, keeping in contact with your needles. We're going to go back to forward and down. You're going to feel it here, it snap. And we're going to have it stuck in this crevice here. Then we're going to slide our left needle down the right over the tip and down the back, forcing that feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch. And then we just transfer over the stitch from the right needle over to the left needle. So stick your left needle through that new stitch, pick it up and lift it off. So now you should have 4 stitches on your left needle. Alright, so you can rewind this as many times as you need until you're comfortable doing these cast-ons on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and finish the number of stitches required for this rectangle. Alright, so once you have all your stitches down, I'm going to show you guys what to do next. But before we start on to the next row, I want to show you some tips and tricks. So when you're knitting and holding your knitting needles, you're not noticing that you could be turning your stitches. It's not straight. Sometimes they're really out of whack and it's like this. And what you really want to do is avoid knitting straight across, because then you're going to get a permanent kink in your project. And you definitely don't want to have your feeder yarn up and back, because if the stitch is loose enough, it's going to look like there's an extra stitch there, and there isn't. So what you want to do is make sure that your stitches are all in a straight line. This is going to prevent any confusion with binding or twisting, and it'll keep you working on the same stitches that you ended up with. Alright, so after you see that this is straight, you can do the next row. Now for this particular project only, but for the same kits, after you cast on, the number of stitches that you start with on your left needle, you're going to have the same number of stitches on your right needle. And from here on out, when you do the rows, the idea is just to create new stitches from the left over to the right. And that's all it is. So let us do a row for you guys. So stick your needle into this first stitch here. We're now going to do a full knit stitch. What we did before was just casting on. So to do a knit stitch, get into your knit stitch position. Again, we're going to go back to forward and down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Then we're going to go left down the right over the tip and down the back, forcing the feeder yarn through that loop, creating a new stitch. Now, like I said, we should have the same number end up on the right needle, and match the same number of the stitches that was on the left needle. So since we've added one, we have to lose one. So carefully scoot up your stitches towards the tip of the needle, and we're only going to remove one stitch. Okay, so now we should have the same number of stitches between the two of these. Let's do another one. Stick your hook into the next stitch, get into your knit stitch position. We're going to go back to forward and down, and we're going to slide this down the front of the right needle over the point and down its back. And then we're going to push up our stitches and carefully remove this stitch. So now we have 2 stitches on our right needle and 2 less stitches on the left. Let's do this one more time with you guys. Stick your hook into the next stitch. We're going to yarn over and bring down. Then we're going to slide the left needle over the right and then remove the stitch off the left. Alright. So now that I've shown you how to do this, you guys, I'm just going to go all the way down until we reach the other side. You can play back this video as many times as you need until you get comfortable doing these knit stitches. Alright, so now that we finished that row, okay, we're going to do the last row of the green. So, and I'm going to show you how to transition to the red. We're going to flip this over. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, not yet. We have to do 2 more. So let's do this row. I just flipped it over and we ended up with the stitches on the left, nothing on the right, and then we can just redo what we had been doing. Okay. And then we're going to do 1 more row before we transition to the red. Alright, I'm going to flip this. Now I just have to go and get my red. And how you do this is, we have this larger spool, which I think is great because you can easily find the outside yarn, but then it rolls around when you pull it. So I like to get the yarn from the inside. So if possible, pull the inside yarn out, and then we can cast on with our slip knot. So we're not going to need a tail, but what we're going to do is the same thing we did before. Use your ring, pinky, and thumb, index and middle finger. Hold it apart. We're going to lift up with our fingers and turn down. Then with our middle and index, we're going to grab the feeder yarn and pull through the loop. And then we're going to pull the top part, not the part that's attached to the feeder yarn, but we're going to pull and we're going to push the knot towards our left thumb. And this is going to eliminate the amount of waste that we do with this yarn. Okay, so this is how much we're wasting. Hold on to the knot and then pull on the feeder yarn to where you can fit 2 knitting needles, or 1 actually. So from here, what we're going to do is stick your hook into this first stitch rather than use the green. We're going to slip on with the red. Okay. Pull through that loop. And then we have our first red. Now, we won't need green anytime soon, so we're going to trim this off. So, cut about 1 inch or so of the green. What I'm going to do is double knot it to the red excess piece. And you don't need to tie it too tight, you just need to tie it to secure it so you don't lose any stitches. And this is probably the sloppiest knot I've ever done. Alright, so then we can go back and we can follow the instructions for the rows, and then we're going to transition to the white. Alright, so now for this, we're going to continue down the row but with red. Wow, this one I have to fix. Let's see. Okay. And then we're going to turn. And you're going to do another row with this red. All right. Then before we move on, we're going to be working with white. So grab your white. And what I like to do when we get these kinds of spools, I like to split it in half so that the loops are going in a circle. And then I'm going to grab the yarn that's on the inside. Let me see if I can find that. Okay. So you don't want to get the outside yarn because, like I said, you'll pull it and it'll spin. Same thing with this one. If you pull the outside one, it'll spin. But I'm going to put this little cylinder thing. It has some weight to it. And then I'm just gonna grab the inside one so I can, like, idea is almost be able to unravel it with no issue. But we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cast on with a slip knot. So take your ring, pinky, and thumb, and hold one end, index and middle finger, and hold apart the other. We're going to go ahead and take our 2 fingers here, and we're going to lift up and turn down. We're going to take our middle and index and pull the feeder yarn through the loop. Then we're going to pull the top end, not the one with the feeder yarn, and we're going to pull it out and push that knot towards your thumb. You're going to keep doing that until it's either really close to the thumb or the knot is too tight to push anymore. And then I'm going to take the excess piece and pull that out just to make that knot a little more snug. And so now we have this huge loop. To make it more manageable, I'm going to pull the feeder yarn so that I can fit a needle in there. And then we're going to continue on with the white. Now, when we cut off the green, it's because we won't be needing the green till the very end. We are going to alternate between white and red, so I'm going to leave this on here, and we're just going to keep switching white to red. So stick your your needle into this first stitch. Don't use the red yarn. We're going to slip on the white, gather up some feeder yarn, and we're going to pull that through the loop. And then we're just going to continue down the row, but you can tighten up this red a little bit. If you can, try to get that knot. Let's see, what side is the back side? Yeah. Try to get that knot on the wrong side. You can tell it's the wrong side because we have our messy knot here. So get it on the wrong side and then pull that red just a little tighter so it doesn't slip back through. But you can also tell because we have striping here. On this side, it's very perfect. So this is the prettier side, the right side. But you want to keep all your knots in the back if you can help it. All right. If anything, we can just push those back anyway later. But I'm going to go down the row with the white. And again, follow the number of rows that it's asking you to do. And then we're going to change back to the red. And I'm going to show you how to do that one more time. Okay, turn. Then we're going to do this row. Okay, so now when we turn this, we're going to be changing to the red. So pretty much you just want to drop the white altogether and then pick up the red, and then we're just going to continue the new row with the red. So that first red you do, just tighten up the white a little bit to clean it up. And then you can continue down the row. Alright, so we're going to do this red one more time, and then I'm going to show you how to transition back to the white. But all it is a matter of picking up and dropping for this one, because we're only doing a small number of rows. If you saw the Minty Cocoa video, we had something similar, but those stripes were a lot bigger than these ones, so we did it a little differently. Okay, so we're just going to change this to the white one more time. Let's turn this. And then we're just going to drop the red altogether and pick up the white. And then we're going to just finish this row. After that first white, pull on the red to tighten it up a little bit. And then we're going to continue down the row. So from here, you guys, you can rewind this video as many times as you need until you get comfortable transitioning your colors from red to white and white to red. But now I'm gonna go ahead in silence. This is pretty straightforward and it's one rectangle, so I'm just gonna keep this on and work in silence. And then I'll come back in. We're gonna have to come back in and change to the green at the very end, and then we're going to cast off, and then we'll do the assembly. So this is what it's looking like so far. Very nice. All right, let's continue this in silence. Alright, so I actually did the number of rows needed for the red and white pieces, and believe it or not, it's not even, it's like a little halfway over the size it's supposed to be. So we're supposed to do another length like this. And this is why it's like, how? Like, are they knitting really loose? Am I knitting really I don't know what's going on here. But anyway, I pretty much got to double the length of this, so I'm going to do this off camera because we've already just watched myself do 30 minutes of this. So it's going to be another 30 minutes of this before we can transfer back to the green. So let me do this off camera, save us some camera time. In the meanwhile, keep doing what you're doing. I'm just going to add striping at this point. There's no sense to undo it and add rows, because I'll be here forever. But yeah, I'm just gonna tack on more red and white stripes and then come back in when it's the length it has to be, and then transition to the green. All right, so I ran out of white and I do have a bit of red left, so what I'm gonna do is just continue with the red at this point, just to make it, because I don't even I'm not even there yet. I'm almost there, I guess. But I'm just gonna go and tie the white to the red on the wrong side. Comment below, let me know if you ran out of yarn as well. But I don't care if it's not gonna be the same. I'm just gonna finish this off with the red, and then we'll come back and put the green. But I'm gonna do this off camera. Alright, so I have it almost to the length that it needs to be. Look, I mean, we added a lot. But we're going to transition to the green. And I don't have that much green left, so I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make the number of rows they ask. But we're going to try. So, cast on with a slip knot. Again, hold it with your ring, pinky, and thumb, and your index and middle finger. We're going to go up with 2 fingers, turn it down, then with our middle and index pull through the feeder yarn. Then we're going to pull this top part here and push the knot towards the thumb. Okay, and once it's stopped, you can take the excess piece and pull that out a little bit more to get the knot nice and snug. But now we're going to pull on the feeder yarn to make this loop more manageable. Right. So then I'm going to do the next row, but we're going to slip on the green. Okay. Slip that off, pull the red just a little bit tight, try to get it around the knot so that it shows up in the back and not the front. But I'm gonna go now and we're gonna cut this red off because we don't need it anymore. So cut about an inch or so. And then I'm gonna tie this around the excess piece 2 times, not too tight, just enough to secure a knot so we don't lose any stitches. All right. So now we can just continue on with the green. So I'm just going to complete the number of rows that we need in silence, or at least try to. If I fall short, I'm just going to pop back in and we're going to cast off. Alright, so I actually had one more row to do, and I don't have enough yarn, and as you saw, I had to undo some of my stitches, but we're here now and we're going to cast off. So to cast off, you're going to need at least 2 stitches on your right needle. So what we're going to do is knit 2 stitches, and then we're going to leapfrog this stitch over the next, and we're going to remove it off the right needle and off the left needle. So stick your needle into this stitch here, leapfrog it over the next. You can use your thumb to hold it back, but we're going to remove this off the right, and then we're going to remove it off the left. So now you just have 1 stitch here. So like I said, you always have to have 2. So we're going to knit another stitch. So you have 2 again. Then we're going to pick up this stitch, leapfrog it over the next. You can hold it down with your thumb, but we're going to remove this off the right needle and then off the left needle. So let's do this one more time with you guys. Knit another stitch. We're going to lift this stitch over the next, hold it down with your thumb. You can slip this off the right needle and off the left needle. So we're just going to keep doing this until we get rid of all the stitches off of our left needle. And then I'm going to show you what to do with the last remaining stitch. Getting near the end of this yarn here, so it's a little nerve-wracking. I think we're gonna make it, but it's still a little stressful. Alright, so we're down to our last stitch. What we're going to do is yarn over, wrapping the yarn in front of the needle. You can hold it with your index and your your middle finger. Then we're going to leapfrog this stitch over that yarn over, off the right needle, off the left, and then I'm going to pull this right needle all the way out, and then tighten it up by pulling on the excess piece. And then we're done with our stocking. So it's very different here, but you can put this towards the back and make pretend it never ever existed. But now we're going to get into our sewing. So let me get the sewing needle out from the box, out of our pouch here. We're going to thread up this needle, and I hope it's enough, otherwise I'm going to use the red. And this is kind of not the right color anyway, so hopefully we don't see it, but you want to fold your stocking halfway, and you want the wrong side facing outward. Okay. Then what we're going to do is sew the shape of your stocking. So just visualize, you can use like maybe a washable marker if you want, but visualize the stocking and sew around it. So hopefully I have enough yarn, 1, 2, hopefully I can make the shape. So I'm going to use straight stitches, which is pretty much going up and down. And then I'm going to, again, just try to visualize a stocking and sew around to make that shape. And I'm going to try, I like to over exaggerate the shape a little bit. because this is so small and I want the shape to stand out. And I'm just going row by row. Okay. Oh. I guess the back of this has the shape made for you. Not close enough. Alright. So now what we're gonna do is flip this inside out. Oh my gosh, look at how cute this is. Okay. I'm going to leave this out because this looks like a long piece we can probably use. But I'm going to tuck in everything else. Oh, and keep this green one that we already have out here. Alright, so now we're just going to stuff. So take your stuffing. And we're going to stuff this. You can do it in little pieces so that you can shape your stocking better. If you put it all in one clump, it's going to be harder to manipulate it, and you might oversize an area and it might bulge out. So this way you can kind of control what it looks like. Okay, and I don't really want to overstuff, but let's see what happens if I put all of it. I don't think it would be that big of a deal, but it is getting a little hefty. So after we do that, we have to just stitch this closed. So I don't have any more green, so we're not going to make the hanging part green. And we might either make it, well, we'll probably make it red, because that's the only color I have left. And I'm just going to go in and out of the top here. And hopefully it makes it all the way. If not, I'm going to use the white. But if I don't need the white, I'm going to tuck that in to the into the stocking before I tie it off. So I think I'm going to be all right. I'm going to tuck this white into there. And then I'm going to try to wrap this up here. Okay, and then I'm going to find my moment to tie my knot. Okay, I lost the threading on this. We're going to go in here and go through one end and out a random spot so we can tuck in that tail piece. Stretch it back out to hide that end there. All right, so now we just have to do this part, and they want us to do a braiding. So in yesterday's video, I had done something similar, so we're just going to do that here. I'm going to grab my yarn and make 3 equal pieces and cut it. Okay, this one piece here I'm going to cut as well, making it the same size right now as the others. Okay, but this one is still in half. So what I'm going to do is take this single piece that I just cut, and I'm going to tie it around that loop, double knot, okay, then I'm going to grab my needle and one of the ends, and I'm going to sew it right here at the base. Okay, and slip that through till I hit the knot. If you can, try to get that knot inside the stocking so we can hide that knot. And you can push that in with your finger. I wouldn't pull it so much in case like you don't want that knot to unravel, but you at least want to make sure that it gets stuck in there. And I'm having a hard time getting it stuck in there. All right, so once you have that in there, now we can braid our strands. So we have 3 of these here. just like the picture depicts it. And then to braid, what we're going to do is you have your outside strands and your middle one. What we're going to do is just replace the outside with the middle one. So put this outside one over the middle one. So now the outside became the middle and the middle came the outside, and then we're going to do this side. So outside and switch with the middle, and then outside switch with the middle, and you just keep repeating this and you're going to start seeing braids. Okay. And I'm going to put my phone on the stocking so that it's weighted down. Okay. So now I can continue doing the outside, swapping it with the middle, outside, swapping it with the middle, outside, swapping it with the middle, and so on and so forth. Oh, it escaped. Okay, and you want to keep doing this until you have enough to make a nice loop. Meaning, you can check it. You take this and you make a loop out of it, and you can judge for yourself to see if this is enough to hang. So I like mine a little bigger, so we're going to continue building this braid. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay, once you get the length that you want, we're going to take one of these strands, put two of them together. This one's out on its own. Just going to wrap it over the two and slip it through the loop and pull. So now we have this tied off. So now what I'm going to do is take all three strands. Can't remember how I did it in the other one. I'm going to thread this in to close my loop, like that. I guess you can do the one and then tie it around both. Two times to make it nice and secure. Right. Then I'm going to thread this up, put it through one side, out a random side. I'm going to cut this flush. And this is officially going to be my back side. Well, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to do that again with this one. In one end, out a random end on the other side. Cut it flush. And then one more. to put the sticker. And I don't know, do I want it the way it looks in the photo, facing this way with the heart, or do I want to have it face the other way? And I can make a really nice, like, either right dead in the middle, so that it doesn't really, you know what I mean? It's not like it's ruining it, this band of red, because the heart fits inside and it works. I don't know, but I'll make it look like the photo. Maybe on the other side I can do some glitter paint and put an initial for whoever's name. But, you know, really up to you. If you have yours like mine. But yeah, so stick this down, and then you're going to want to hold this for a few seconds just to make sure that every bit of the adhesive is attaching to something. To secure this, you can take a fine sewing needle and thread and sew around the heart. I don't, I just leave it as is. But here is my stocking, you guys. This wasn't so bad, aside from the fact that I ran out of yarn. But there you have it. Let me know what you think. Let me know how yours went. So moving forward, I am going to throw in another 5 Below crochet kit. It's making a bag, and that is a viewer request. And then I have, after that, a request to do the Grinch kits. So I'm going to do that for you guys. And of course we have plenty more to do. I do have a list. If you want to request something, leave a comment below. If you do not want to wait for me to find the kit, you can always send me a clear image via email. My contact info is in the description box below. At any rate, thank you so much, you guys, for watching. This is Isms by Josie. Please share, like, and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.